Deborah, you want to say welcome back to the Culty Crew podcast? In the microphone? Come here. Look at the camera.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Culty Crew.
Culty
What? Podcast. This is episode 6.
High five 6.
High five. Say love you.
Love you.
Love you, baby. Okay. You might see Priscilla's daughter popping in and out of here. I have the hiccups too, so this is going to be a fun episode. Welcome back to the Culty Crew podcast. This is episode 5. You might hear Priscilla's baby in the background. She's chilling with us. For those of you who are new here, my name is Amanda Ray, and this is my little brother Eskel.
Hey, what's up, guys?
For those of you that are new here, we both escaped a polygamous cult known as the Order, or Kingston Clan, or Davis County Co-op. Our dad has 3 wives.
So many names for it.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do this microphone. You gotta be quiet if you're gonna stay here, okay?
Yeah.
Eskel just came to visit in Vegas, and we actually just went over to Sam and Melissa, who is another YouTube channel there called Growing Up in Polygamy, and Sam's from the FLDS, which is another polygamous group, and you guys just filmed a whole thing on the similarities, right?
Oh yeah, I'm like his twin.
Yeah. How? Explain that, because Sam
I basically copied and pasted his life.
Yeah.
He left the FLDS cult and then joined the LDS mainstream religion and then served a mission shortly after and just did all the same things that I did. It's pretty cool. We were just talking and we literally were finishing each other's sentences for parts of it, because it was like I would mention something that I did and then he would mention, and then you did this, right? And then I was like, yeah, and then I did this, and it was just like we did the same thing.
Do you think that you and Sam gravitated towards LDS because it was stability, or what do you think made you guys both?
Similarity. I couldn't help but feel when I first left the cult that since I'm leaving a cult and a belief system and this whole thing, I needed to find somebody else to tell me what to do, because I was so used to being told what to do. And since I didn't believe in that anymore, I felt like I was just too focused on needing something else to fill that, rather than I wish if I could talk to my past self, I would try to tell myself to focus more on my own internal beliefs and how to figure out for myself what's right and wrong, rather than constantly looking for someone to tell me.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are more established now and you kind of have more control over your life, I guess?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm a lot more understanding of why I believe what I believe and how I process what I determine to be right and wrong.
And I didn't know this about you. So when you film your YouTube videos, are you afraid of how it comes off to, in case someone from the Order watches, or your siblings in the Order are watching? Do you kind of talk differently as if they're listening because you're afraid that they're going to interpret it wrong?
Oh yeah, because everyone has their own ideas and different beliefs and things like that. And so I like just being myself, and I feel like I've developed my belief system and who I am. And so I just love being genuine and just being myself and not worrying or stressing so much. But I can't help but think of how are they going to interpret it? What are they going to think from it? Because even when I'm saying things that I might not think are offensive, I know that there's people out there that might take it in an offensive way, and so I'm sorry for that, but it's I am just going to be me, and it's been hard enough for me to develop my beliefs and who I am that I'm not going to change that for just because it might offend somebody.
Right. Okay, we had to move upstairs because the baby was being a little bit loud. Are you afraid of how it's going to come off to LDS people, what you have said about your beliefs in the LDS church?
Yeah, because I think that it's really hard to speak on behalf of me saying I'm LDS, and so many people have their own expectation for that. And it's I consider myself LDS 100%, but I still don't believe the same way a lot of LDS people do. So it's some people are going to hear what I said and be offended and be like, what? You can't be LDS and think that way.
Wait,
and I just say, but I am.
You don't, because do you believe in the word of wisdom? What are things that you don't necessarily believe in that the LDS church kind of teaches you that you need to believe?
Well, and here's the thing. A lot of LDS people will agree with me on this. For something simple, example, coffee. Whereas it's against the word of wisdom to drink coffee. But if you drink it, then it's not like you'll get excommunicated for it. It's really not that big of a deal. And to me, I totally understand that coffee is addictive and I don't want it to consume my life or anything like that. But I also understand that it gives me energy, and that at least so long as I control my intake of it, then there won't really be any negative repercussions to it. And so I acknowledge that, and I'll drink coffee every once in a while. And just little things like that, such as even going as far as like wearing the garments and stuff. There's a lot of the times
Do you wear
where
them? Are you wearing them?
well, like that. I'm not wearing them right now, but I do wear them, especially to the temple or to any sacred things, because I understand their sacred significance. But I'm not like super nitpicky about having to wear it 24/7 all the time, like a lot of people might be. But just little things like that. And with the whole church history, a lot of people think to consider yourself LDS, you have to 100% agree with all of church history and all of the polygamy background and stuff. And it's like, no, I've never agreed with it. You know, I don't like the history. I don't like anything that really does to do with polygamy. But I understand that's a part of the church's history, and I acknowledge it. Doesn't mean I necessarily have to support it or be gung-ho about it or anything like that. So a lot of little things like that.
So that being said, then do you feel like you want an LDS girl?
I wish, ideally, I would love a girl just like me.
Just to date yourself. Can you do that?
If I could find someone that I perfectly match with. And like, the thing is, I'm a very spiritual person. I love the whole, praying every single day. I love going to church every single Sunday. I love trying to constantly progress and work towards a better life and closer relationship with Christ. And I love that. I think a lot of LDS girls are like that. And I love that aspect about it. And I just would hope that I could find one that is kind of like that, but still understanding that I'm not the stereotypical LDS. I'm not like every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And I can have my own viewpoints on the way that I live my religion.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like the progress that Eskel has made, because I'm the older sister watching the younger brother. Like I remember when you first left the order, you were very like, you didn't want to kiss on the lips. You didn't want to. You dating was a weird thing for you too, because in the order in the polygamous church we're from, you're not supposed to hold hands until you're engaged. Your first kiss is on your wedding day, and so dating is not a thing. So how long did it take you to finally break out of that shell of okay, I'm finally okay with breaking those order standards?
Oh, to some extent, I'm still there. I'm a 24-year-old virgin, you guys.
Are you happy about that?
Well, I no longer have virgin lips, at least, so that's one step.
But virgin hips, not virgin lips.
When I first left, I was like, I'll still save my first kiss for my wedding day.
Really?
But it took me quite a while to overcome that belief system, I guess.
How do you think you started to finally be like, okay, it's something I don't believe in, it's the church? Because for me, a lot of my life, I was like, oh, that's not really Amanda's personality. That's what the order trained me to think was my personality. Mm-hmm.
And I'm still learning that stuff to this day. But I'm a lot more open-minded and like just trying to, rather than just be like, I just believe this just because, I'm way more of like, I should at least like write down or journal or do something to help me understand why I believe what I believe. Because then if nothing else, it'll help me to strengthen my belief in whatever that thing might be. Yeah. And so I'm a lot more intentional about what I believe in and why I live the way that I do, because I'm super passionate about wanting to live the best life that I can, and I'm a true believer that it takes the support of people around you. And I don't fully necessarily say you need a whole religion to do it, but it helps having people, having a church to go to, having a community to support you and be a part of it and stuff. And I love the quote where they're like, Christ doesn't say that you need to follow Christians. He says to follow Christ. Mm. And so when your group of people is too focused on following the people of the group versus Christ himself, then that's when I think you need to like reevaluate and look at it a little bit differently. But I still think having Christians around you can be very helpful.
Yeah. I think having that community, like I wanted to join a church for a while because I wanted to have that sense of community, but then it's also like I want to surround myself with like-minded people. Do you feel like you're surrounded by like-minded people? Oh yeah, I guess, and it's a constant work in progress for sure. And I feel like I'm constantly growing my circle, meeting new people and things like that. Talk about word of wisdom, your opinion on that, because you're like you were saying, you do drink coffee sometimes, and there's certain things. What makes you feel like, oh, I do believe in that, but I don't believe in this, even though it's all the LDS, belief system.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny is that's the problem with having an LDS title. People put you into a certain category, and it's like, I agree with a lot of the LDS way, and I 100% consider myself LDS, and I consider myself a what's that called? An active, participant that like, is fully involved in the church and things like that. But I don't think that I don't think that I'm changing my belief system when I go from my old cult to this new one. Mm-hmm. I've always believed that I want to take care of myself. I don't want to be addicted to substances and stuff. And so
I'm just going to cut you off a little bit because do you think that LDS people will get mad that you're saying you went from one cult to another cult? You're calling their religion a cult?
No, because if you're LDS, all of us know that we are a type of a cult, but we're a much nicer cult.
I don't know. I think some people in the LDS culture don't think that people look at it as a cult. But here's the thing: if you Google definition of a cult, it's really just a religious group or a group of people that other people deem as not normal or weird or different from society.
Or performs unusual ceremonies.
Which is...
LDS people know that we do that, but we're okay with them. It's not like we're doing blood sacrifices. It's not like we're doing anything insane. Right? We are all doing things that we agree with and that we think are okay, but might be seen as unusual to people that don't know about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. And honestly, if there are LDS people that are like, oh, we're not a cult, then I think it's just they don't know the full definition, or at least the definition that I'm using for it, because I don't mean it in an offensive way at all.
Yeah. As far as we were just talking about too, like his dating life and how like you can't, he's like okay with being single. Do you want to talk a little bit about your dating life or no?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm totally okay with being single, and I might be single for the rest of my life if I can't get myself together, I guess. But.
What do you mean get yourself together? Because my advice to him was basically learn who you are as a person, learn what you want, because you can't date before you know that, because then you're gonna be dating the wrong people and confused in what you want. You need to figure that out first, then go try to date the person you want.
Yeah, but I don't want to be like 50 by the time I settle down, though. I don't think I'll fully know myself. I think a part of our life journey is to continually be progressing and adapting and learning and growing. And I just want a girl that's willing to go through that with me, one that's really willing to commit and to stick together, even through the hard times, which I know because of my background and my lifestyle, it's not going to be as easy or as typical as a lot of people that just live a simpler lifestyle. I know that I'm constantly progressing. I'm always questioning everything, and that doesn't make life easier, but it helps me to better understand and live more intentionally, I feel like.
Yeah, which I think ultimately in the long run is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people are just really comfortable in their lifestyle, and then that's fine. But because we were born in a cult, we were born so uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's like we were fighting to find that comfortability, and we're gonna keep fighting till we are completely satisfied. I feel like, because I look at you even a year ago, and you've progressed so much since then. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's some people that never, I feel like they're the same person every year I come and see them again. They haven't progressed. They're like hitting the same wall, and I think it's...
And they have the same issues, the same complaints they had a year ago. And it's like, we are just so used to, if you want to change, then change it. You know, we've changed so much of our lives to get to where we are now. We know our potential and we know how much we can do, so we do it. We get stuff done.
I think a big part of it was for me, because even after I left the order, I was talking about this on the Melissa, it's going to be out on Growing Up in Polygamy in like a week, but we talked about how you can actually bring the cult with you on accident, and I did do that. I was still living as a cult order girl for a while until I finally took accountability and responsibility. It's such a weird thing to think, like, for a while I was like, oh, poor me, like, God put me in this cult, like, why did it, but then it's like, you can't change, like, the external. You can change the internal, and once you finally understand that and agree with that, you're taking your power back. It's not necessarily that you're it's not victim blaming, right? It's not like it's my fault that I got it, because no, there's certain things like you were born into, like these are the cards you were dealt in life, but what are you going to do with that, But I think it takes a lot of self-reflection and a lot of looking internal and being like, what can I do to, if I don't like this and I keep having the same problem, what do I need to do differently to change it, It's
a lot of the mindset that is affecting my dating situation all the time, because I think in the LDS culture it's very much like, oh, I want the pitch perfect LDS guy. There's a lot of people in the LDS culture that are a specific way, and they know their expectations,
So
they just do it that way.
What is the picture perfect LDS man? Like, is there like bullet points that they're like, well, they need to go on a mission, they need to da-da-da-da?
Well, kind of, but I mean, it's really just like, I feel like every LDS girl wants to marry an apostle. Pretty much, you know? Well, not literally, but they want to marry a guy that's like, could be an apostle kind of, you know? Someone that's like, follows all the rules, super obedient. And not only that, because it's like, I don't know, I'm not the best at explaining this, but they just, in the church, it's constantly being told these stories of these really good missionaries that are basically apostle-like people, and like how they get married, and they after they serve their perfect mission, and they do so many good things, and it is glamorized and focused on so much in like a positive way for people to try and like work towards that and stuff. But then I feel like a lot of the girls are like, okay, so I know exactly what I want, instead of them actually thinking about it themselves and deciding, okay, I want this, and these things matter so much to me, rather than, as long as it's what the church pitch perfect version of what they say, then that's what I want, you know? I feel like too many just take what they say and go with it, kind of. But
I think that too, like I went to public school and I saw a lot of the LDS girls in Utah, because that was the biggest religion in Utah is LDS. So I thought the biggest thing that I noticed with girls wanting to date and like potentially marry men, I almost felt like the most important thing to them was, you know, if they're going to be a missionary, if they're going to be righteous, all these things, which is great, whatever. But I felt like the last thing on their list was compatibility and friendship, and the things that I think build and make a relationship actually good, you know?
And honestly, I feel like they're so good at saying those things is because they're doing like this copy paste. They heard it in a Sunday school lesson, and so they say it that way, you know?
Do you feel like that's the similarity? Whereas, because I remember how in the order it was like everyone's robots, everyone's the same brain, just copy paste, because they're all taught to be robotic. Do you feel like there's a similarity with it when you moved into the LDS community?
Yeah, I hate comparing the LDS church to the order cult though, because I feel like it's so, it might be based on the same principles in the beginning, but they are definitely applied very differently. And I think the LDS church is a lot better at not being so controlling. They do have a lot of rules too, but it's more like, in the LDS church, if you don't follow any of them, not very much happens. Whereas in the order, then you can get disowned by family members, you can be mistreated, you can lose financial opportunities, you can literally have your money taken from you. Whereas at least in the LDS church, they might have a lot of rules and expectations, but they're not going to force you to live them.
Right. That's a good point then. So you've been in the LDS church for
5 years, I feel
5
like.
years.
Almost, no, it's got to be 6 now.
Would you date a Christian girl, do you feel like?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if they were like, had similar mindset as I did, and a growth mindset and stuff like that. And here's the thing, I'd be down to date anybody. Like, I think dating is just where you get to know them and you kind of find out if you're compatible and things like that. So I'm always open-minded, and to be quite frank, I'm a little bit desperate, but
But that's not good, because I feel like when you're dating, when you're desperate, you're always going to find the wrong people.
Exactly.
Never date when you're desperate, because then you settle and you're like, it's okay, this is you'll overlook things because you're either lonely or you're feeling inadequate. So I think be secure with yourself first. You don't have to know everything about yourself, but you need to know those basic points that are important to you, and then you can go date and be like, okay, that's
well. And if there are some things you're not fully sure on, you just have to be open-minded and make sure they are understanding, and you communicate what things you might want to still grow with them on, you know, things like that.
Because you definitely want someone who wants a family, right? You want someone who's religious, who puts, you know, those things first, who has morals and standards like you. But I feel like you also, one of the number one things is a woman who's very motivated and very passionate about growing.
Anything they do,
So if any of you know any women that fit this description,
please give me a call.
let them know that Mrs. Grant is on the way.
Nice.
dating apps aren't working anymore.
Oh, I hate dating apps, man.
I know, I've actually never been on a dating app except for when our half brother put me on Plenty of Fish when I was like 14 years old. I just hate the idea of it not being natural and like just a natural meeting. Rather, I just feel like it's so much expectations when you're talking on an app, you know?
Oh yeah, and it just, I feel like things work out way better when you meet them in person or you meet them in a natural way, which is nice. But no against, I know a lot of people that get married from dating apps, but
yeah,
it's fine
what
if it
do
works.
you talk about? Like, I've literally never been on a date from meeting someone on a dating app. Like, what do you talk about when you bless you? Is it always awkward? There's never going to be not an awkward date?
What?
First date?
No, most of my dates are not awkward, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like you're both there for the same purpose. So it's just kind of like, to me, I look at it as just a hangout. Like, let's just go do something fun together. And if things work out, then we'll do it again. And then just go from there.
What type of questions do you ask on the first date?
I think my top question is like, why did you choose like to live where you're living? Like, how do you make your life choices that you're making, basically? Because I like to know people's thought process. You know, how they make up their mind, how they have gotten to where they're at now, and things like that. And I'm the type of person that loves like deep diving into people's minds and like getting to know them and like asking them way overly personal questions on the very first time meeting them.
I feel like that's an order thing about us because we had to figure out the psychological reason why we were so brainwashed in this cult. At least that's for me. So psychology was my favorite subject in school. So now when I meet new people, it's so like, I hate chit chat. I hate like, if I'm going to be friends with you, I want to know like, when's the last time you cried? Like what, you know, like what makes you the way that you are? What are your insecurities and why, you know, what makes you tick? Because I feel like now any friendship that's not that deep, it feels almost like it's not really a friendship to me. I don't know. Maybe when going through so much trauma and having to hash it all out and realize all this stuff about yourself and learn so much about yourself, then it makes it more meaningful to learn about other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I can't help but feel like every time I'm with someone, it's an opportunity to learn their perspective.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to ask them something that kind of gives me a hint or an idea of the way that they think and not just a simple answer, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too, is for me, it's like why I love doing interviews on my channel like the most, because I feel like this is a great time to be able to hear a whole different person's world and their perspective and learn so much from the life experiences that they've had and how their brain was able to process it all.
Yeah, and that's what, oh my goodness, we mentioned it I think earlier, but today we filmed with Sam and Melissa. And if any of you guys follow me on Instagram, I was so excited. I was posting my whole trip over here in the flight and everything, and it was greater than I even thought it was going to be, because it was so fun to pick their minds and to see their perspectives and to talk to someone that has been through all of those things that I have, because Sam has literally done those exact same things. And so it was really fun talking to him.
Did you feel like he gave good advice, or did you ask him for advice?
Oh yeah, I asked him tons of questions, how he made his decisions, how he was able to decide what he was going to do, and also I asked him a lot of questions about like what it meant to him, you know, why he made those decisions, what led him to where he's at now, and it was just a lot of fun. I was fascinated.
Talk at all about what he believes now?
Oh yeah, It was really nice to kind of see how. I love just how respectful he is. He's gone from religion to religion. He's gone from trying to figure himself out and to understand what he truly wants and what matters. And he just never bashes on wherever he might have like gone from. And like I'm even surprised too, because like the FLDS to me, I'm like, I bash on it a little bit because they have done some crazy things, you know, that blows my mind. And I do fall victim of doing that to the order too, because I know so much dirt on them basically.
Yeah.
But he does really good at just like forget it. Like if they're doing bad things, that's on them. Like they're already probably getting the repercussions from that.
I'm a little different because maybe because I'm a woman coming from the order, and like with Sam, I think it's easier for him. I don't know. I guess I have a different opinion.
It is easier for guys too, yeah. Because for me, it's like maybe it is like a harsh perspective, but I'm just kind of like they're gonna get what's getting to them. I mean, I'm not gonna waste my energy on it. But from a woman's perspective, I would feel like I've been taken advantage of, and they're still taking advantage of other women, and I want to stop that, you know?
Is when there's still people saying, oh, no, that doesn't happen anymore. But I have victims constantly saying, yes, it does, and that there's still marital rape. And then there's people coming out with this worse stories than even me. And I'm like, I feel like if I have this platform and I'm not talking about it and spreading awareness, I feel like guilty. Even though I know I get shamed and blamed and like, why don't you just leave us alone? It's like, if you guys just stop doing the crap, then I won't have to talk about the crap. I won't have to air the dirty laundry.
Yeah, and it's tough because like I admire Amanda for doing that because I'm like, she's taking one for the team, so I don't have to. And it sucks reliving that trauma and like hearing all those horrible stories that makes you
like, when can I give the microphone to you and you just take it? I'm like training Esco so that he can do it for me now. It's hard. I've even had to order people be like, why do you keep doing it? And like, what do you want? Attention? What do you want? No, like, I wish I didn't have to do it. I wish I could stop talking about it, but nobody else dares to do it. There's people giving me information, like, please talk about this, but they do not want their face or name attached to it. They don't want to go and do it themselves and put in the work. And I understand that because look at me doing it and getting all the repercussions too. I guarantee some people have had ideas to do what I'm doing, and then they see how I'm treated and how bad I'm talked about in the order, and they're like, never mind.
Yep. Even all the insider interviews that I've done, I've had 3 people give me permission to post stuff, and then they take it back and say, never mind, don't do it, I'm too afraid, or like they just have second thoughts, or they just can't handle it.
Because it's a lot of fear-based stuff, and especially when you come from a cult like that, you're very fear-driven. A lot of your decisions are made based on fear and guilt. And so I guess because I don't make decisions based on fear and guilt anymore, I just make decisions. We took a little intermission, but I wanted to ask Esco, do you feel like you still live your life making decisions based on fear, kind of? Because we were raised to be that way. Like, literally every decision I made was fear-based. Like, I better do this or else God's going to smite me. I better live polygamy or else I'm not going to make the Celestial Kingdom. I better do, and everything was based on a fear-based mindset. And sometimes I'll catch myself a little bit doing that now, and I'll be like, no, we're not doing that anymore. We've realized that that's not productive. What are we going to do today to not be living in fear? But do you notice yourself ever living in fear?
I definitely don't make my decisions in fear anymore. And it's funny because I know it's unhealthy for me, so I've tried for the longest time to stop. And I feel like I've really mastered it because when it really comes down to it, sometimes I'll be like, the Terrestrial Kingdom's not that bad. I mean, if it really is, if I make these mistakes, I'll go to the Terrestrial instead of the Celestial. And then I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to be so afraid of living in a different place that is going to ruin my life. I think I'm still going to live like as intentional as I can and try to be the best that I can be. But if the best that I am and what my true intentions become are terrestrial, then I'm like, okay, then that's where I'm meant to be. I'd rather be around people like me than have to fake it all the way to the Celestial Kingdom. Yeah. Basically.
So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, so that's one thing that the order, the order is based off of Joseph Smith's teachings, which is what the LDS church is. And so LDS people know the celestial, telestial, and terrestrial, celestial, telestial, terrestrial kingdoms.
Well, close, but yeah.
Wait,
the celestial, the terrestrial, and the telestial.
Terrestrial, telestial, yeah. And so it's basically like if you are the best and you get an A+ on your report card of life and being a good person, you get to the Celestial Kingdom. If you did okay, you get to the terrestrial, and then the third one is telestial, and then it's hell underneath that, right?
Yeah, some people believe the bottom one is the same thing as hell, but other people interpret it differently.
Yeah. So what makes you still believe that system? Like, it makes sense to you?
That's another thing. See, I'm not the typical LDS that just takes the doctrine and just, bam, that's what it is. But it makes so much sense to me that we are going to live with people that are similar to us. And so I don't know if there's just 3 heavens or if there's only 4 places we can go, but I believe that there will be some type of, placement for us to go to depending on how we live our lives. And so whether it is exactly with those 3 kingdoms or not, I just think that there's going to be something along those lines.
Yeah. But that's what, I think we talked about this in the last podcast episode we did with Cammie. Basically, like, it only made sense to me at one point that we go wherever people are just like us, so that we get that that karma, I guess, or that experience. But I guess I didn't think I was going to go this route, but I kind of am curious. Do you believe in the whole, like, you get to be a god over your own world? That's what Melissa was talking to me about, and I was like, I forgot that that's what is taught. Like, if you get to the Celestial Kingdom, you get to become a god over your own world, kind of like how we're in a world now and we believe in a god, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess for some people's definition of a god, then sure, but I would really have to dive into the deep specifics of that to really help people understand. But I do love the quote that says, let's see, man is as God once was. So I do at least love the idea of believing that God has lived a life similar to us. That's how he's able to relate to us. That's how he can know us fully. And so I do believe that he at least lived like mankind did at one point. And whether that means that we necessarily can become gods, I don't know. But I like to think that if he did it, then we might have something along the lines of at least eternal progression, you know? Like, we'll always be able to progress. And if that leads us to being some version or type of a god, then I like to believe that that's possible. But I don't think that we're just going to magically become gods afterwards if we were good enough.
Yeah.
I just think there's eternal progression, and since that's eternal, we then eventually, we would get to where God is at. But then God obviously would be much farther than us, you know, at that point, because he's always progressing too. So.
So then, do you think you could just never date an atheist?